YouTube, it's Christopher. Just like it says in the title, don't buy a Leo Jaymz headless guitar unless you know what you're doing. This thing needs a ton of work straight out of the box. I had such high hopes for this. I saw it on Amazon for $179 and said, yes, I need to try that. It has the same hardware, pretty much. The saddles are slightly different, but it's almost the same exact hardware that you'll find on the $600 ERT GW Pro, or GW2 Pro, I should say. They are terrible. And I'm going to explain to you why they're terrible. They look nice. They look like they're going to be good high-end, high-quality hardware, but it's really not. It's one of the worst headless tailpieces you can have, in my opinion, that I've tried so far. This guitar is super cool. It's almost a flip-flop finish. It tries to be a flip-flop. I think you can kind of see it here in the contour. It turns a little bit purple, but for the most part, it's almost always blue. Maybe it's working in the video, maybe not. But yeah, I bought this because it was a flip-flop finish, which I think are super cool. It's got a freaking 5-piece neck. I don't know what it's probably walnut, or I don't know. It's a darker wood for the stripes in between the 3 pieces of maple there. So it's a 5-piece neck. It's a bolt-on. It's got a single volume, single tone, no push-pulls. It's got cheap looking pickups. There's no adjustable pole pieces on them. It's 24 frets. It's got a dark wood, probably wood material for a fretboard. I think it said it had stainless steel frets, but those are not stainless steel frets. There's no goddamn way. The other thing that is, well, let me start to tell you why this is a bad bridge. And it's a bad bridge, and I think I explained it in my ERT video, but I had already fixed it at that point. So here's the problem. So down on the saddle here, where the string meets the saddle, you're supposed to have a break angle after that saddle. And on this, there's basically none. So that break angle, that string is super straight. So when you play the E string now, as it sits, you get this. So that string is literally just sitting on this, vibrating and making this crazy buzz. So now if I push on the string behind the nut, the buzzing goes away because I've changed the break angle behind the saddle. So that's the bad design, right? You have to have a way better break angle than that has. The other thing that these guys, there's clearly people building guitars that don't fully understand how guitars work. The other thing is, if I tried to lower my action, because I don't like the action this currently has on it, it's too high for me. It's not too high for me, it's just higher than what I like. That's a very high action for me. And if I tried to lower that, that string's not gonna sound at all. But here's a real funny thing to me. So when you have a headless guitar that has a 0 fret, the nut behind the fret does no longer act as a nut. It's literally supposed to be just a string spacer to keep your strings from moving in this direction. It keeps them stable, right? And the 0 fret is actually where your open strings ring from. However, on this guitar, and it's not going to be something that I can really show you, I don't think I can get the right angle, but the A, D, and G strings are not touching the 0 fret. And I don't think I'm going to get a good angle on it. So they're sitting on the nut behind the 0 fret. And that's not okay, because that means your note for your open A is going to be A, but then as soon as you go to like your first fret, it's almost in between A sharp and B. Like, that note is going to be super sharp because your open tuned A string is way beyond where it's supposed to be sitting. So that's a massive issue, which means what I have to do to make this work properly is I'll have to take this entire headpiece off, which, by the way, is not flush on the wood. You see there's a gap underneath there? You can push it down and close the gap. It's hard to do with just a single finger, but you can do it and close the gap. So it's kind of a loosely put in headpiece. And I tried to tighten these screws, and they're pretty much as tight as you're going to get them. Lots of issues. But if you know what you're doing, you can alleviate most, if not all, of these problems. So to alleviate the bridge problem, boom, different bridge. So I bought a different bridge that I'm going to be installing on this, and I'll make a separate video once it's all done to show you all the mods that I did to make this a working guitar, and I'll tell you the additional costs then of what it costs to get this $179 guitar up to a very well playing guitar. The other thing about this that is a problem, and it's not a problem per se, but it's not okay, is these strings. I don't know if you can hear it. And it's not the strings, it's the frets. They're so gritty and like oxidated that they scrape and scratch. They make these crazy sounds as you do any kind of bending, and you can feel it. It's super gritty under your fingers. Now, how do you fix that? Well, you take the strings off and you get out a polishing compound and you polish each individual fret. And there's products out there for that. My favorite one is the Lizard Spit pads. And the way that I do it is I just put masking tape on the fretboard, and then you use the pad. They have a whole kit. I just use the pads with my finger. So I put the pad on the end of my finger and just rub it across a string multiple times, and it polishes it all up and it makes it smooth as glass. I'm going to give you some tone sounds on here. What I'll probably do is just play some chords just so you can hear what the pickups sound like, because the pickups don't sound like complete trash. So let's get some tones. So I'm already on my heavy tone. So here's the it's a neck pickup. So I'm going to put some clean tones on just so you can get an idea what they sound like clean. And then I'll call it a day here, and then I'm going to fix this thing. Bridge pickup, totally out of tune. And why is it out of tune? Because I tuned it to the open strings, which means the A, D, and G strings are sharp. That's the bridge. Is both. Way out of tune because those three strings are just not going to be okay. Neck pickup. So those are the tones I'm going to give you for now. Basically, this guitar is only for people who want it as a mod platform. As it sits out of the box, if you are a new guitar player or somebody who's inexperienced and does not have the skill set to work on guitars and do tech level stuff on guitars, skip this unless you know somebody that'll do it for you, or you can pay somebody to do all this. But stay tuned for my next video about this guitar, because I am going to keep it. I'm not going to return it. I'm going to mod this out to make it work. And that means I'm going to put a new bridge on there. I'm going to fix the nut up here so that it's a spacer instead of a nut. And I'm going to polish all the frets up, and I'm going to get this thing playing nice. I might swap the pickups out. I have a set of pickups. I have a lot of set of pickups actually sitting around the house that I think I might like better than what's in here currently. But if you don't have pickups in your budget, you can get away with using these pickups. They're obviously not the best pickups in the world, but you can get by with them. So do not buy a Leo Jaymz headless guitar unless you know how to fix guitars, or have somebody who can fix guitars for you and you're willing to spend the extra money. Because I will tell you, this is my 4th Leo Jaymz guitar that I've bought. I've bought a Stratocaster from them, and I've bought 2 Tellys. I liked the first Telly so much I bought a second one, and I only bought them because I wanted the bodies. And I was correct. Like, the necks that came on them, junk. They had high frets, low frets everywhere. This neck seems to not have those issues. However, the action is very high. When I get the action down to where I want it, those kinds of issues will kind of jump out a little more aggressively because the action's so low. So if you have high frets and stuff, you can sometimes have high frets with high action and it'll still work. But once you lower that action down, those high frets become immediately a problem. Yeah, don't buy this unless you know what you're doing and you want to fix it and you don't mind putting a little bit of extra money, because $179 is pretty fantastic to get a headless guitar, and one that's built fairly well. This neck pocket is super tight. The body's very solid. Don't know what kind of wood it is under there. A 5-piece maple neck. This has got stuff that's worth more than $180 in my mind. The headpiece, it's made out of brass, solid, which is kind of cool. It's dual locking, so it's a nice headpiece. Why it's not gapped properly, I might find that out too. So it might just be that the wood underneath has a little bit of a curve to it. I just got to sand it flat. We'll see. So stay tuned for my next video if you want to know more about what I did to make this guitar work. And buyer beware at this point. If you're just a guitar player, don't buy this. If you're somebody who likes to tinker, go for it, because you can get these, fix them up, and sell them to somebody at a fair price. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, you are the coolest. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.